Am I really that much? And breaking these niggas down like a camel. You don't really know you are.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Felicia Monique, and I am back with another video. And this one is something that is super personal and something I've been wanting to share for a while and just been a little afraid to do it, but I wanted to share it because I think it's super important for people in my community, one, to be transparent about certain situations that they go through, not to be afraid, and also to help people learn. And also to be a blessing to someone who is probably going through the same thing that I went through. So let's dive right in. I also want to share a disclaimer that this is in no way my attempt to bash my ex, and I am not making any generalizations about other schizophrenics or all schizophrenics. This is my experience. Okay, let's start there. The first thing I want to share is just how I found out. He did tell me. I think there came a point when we were beginning to kind of like each other more. He thought that he should tell me. But at this point in our friendship/relationship, nothing showed up that was necessarily like a red flag for me. In my mind, when he would act like a little bit more angry or a little bit more aggressive, I thought that they were more like character traits and a personality thing and not necessarily tied to his mental health, which as time progressed, I realized that that was a mistake. Once he told me about it, it was a very vulnerable conversation, and he like expressed certain things to me that he felt like would happen to him. And I was like, oh no, never, that would never happen, you know? And I was like, it's gonna be fine, like, it's gonna be okay, everything's gonna work out. And from there, I just kind of just like shoved it in the back of my mind, like, he says that, but I don't see it, you know? Like, I just completely moved on, right? And continued to live my life, continued to date him, and we moved in together, and then I got pregnant, and then from there, things really changed. So what I want to share is what I learned about schizophrenia in my experience. It's not just about hearing voices. What we see in the media and on TV makes you think they're hearing voices or they have multiple personalities or something. And it's not like that at all. What happened in my case was that he wholeheartedly would believe certain things had happened that never happened. From like, he thought the baby was somebody else's who had a tattoo of a phoenix on their body, because my daughter's name is Phoenix. And then one instance, he thought someone was following us in the car. And it made me nervous because I could clearly see that there was nobody following us, but he thought there was somebody following us. He thought one of his friends had been to my home. And like, we ended up having like the same conversation about some of these things multiple times for hours on end. I mean, it would be like, you know, trying to convince someone that the lipstick that I have on is purple, right? But you can see that it's red, but they really believe that it's purple. And they're going to argue you down because for whatever reason, because of the diagnosis, that's what they believe. It is a fact to them. And I didn't realize that. And so in certain cases, these conversations would go on for so long, where I would like replay everything step by step that would happen. Like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Da, 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 da. Like, there's no way that that person could be Phoenix's dad because I don't know them. You know, it became a process of like trying to dispel fairy tales, you know, like trying to dispel things that were true. And in the process of that, like, I'm a new mom. I think one of the instances that happened in the very beginning of me noticing behaviors was he thought I stole money from him. And at this point, we were sharing my car, and he kept his money in a certain place in the car, and he thought that I stole the money. Now, mind you, if I wanted the money, I would just be like, babe, I'm grabbing $50 from the stash or something. But for him that day, he just knew I stole the money, okay? He accused me of it. We got in the car. We had to go far to work. Well, I had to drop my son off at school and then go to work. And I told him I did not want to talk about it anymore once we got in the car, but he still wanted to talk about it. I was like, my son is in the car. We're not talking about it anymore. We dropped my son off. He continued to talk about it. At this point, I was like, I'm dropping you off and I'm taking my car. Because usually he would drop me off and take my car. Yes, I know. I'm a completely different person now. But yeah, he would take my car. I'm dropping you off. I'm taking my car. I didn't want it to be one of those days where I had to spend the whole day dispelling a fairy tale. Well, that escalated and it ended in a domestic violence situation. He hit me in the side of the face as I was driving, okay? From that moment on, life as I knew it changed. Because now, it's not only the fairy tales are taking over, it's how they react to the fairy tales. Usually leads to like anger and aggression and frustration. So I moved back home from our apartment after that, which was a really nice apartment, by the way. I moved back home with my parents because I was afraid to live with him, because I'm like, if he hit me in the face because of this, I don't know what else could happen. So I moved back home, and he would come to my parents' house at the crack of dawn, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, knocking on the windows, ringing the doorbell, and just so many different things were happening, where it started to become harassment. And then it started to become stalking, where there was different, at this point I had kind of started my content creation career in 2017, I think, yeah. And then I got pregnant in 2017. So he would go online and like create all these different profiles to basically say horrible things to me on social media in my comments, or DM me things, or reply to my stories with things, like from just so many different pages. And then if I would block a number, he would call me from so many different numbers or text me or something. It was insane. It made me so paranoid. It made me paranoid to leave the house. It made me paranoid to post on social media. It made me paranoid to like talk to my parents or my friends about things. Like, I was so uncomfortable, okay? And so then I had the baby, and then for some reason after I had the baby, I felt like maybe we can work it out. So we moved back in together. I got a new apartment, and I think for a while it was okay. And then it just wasn't. It was COVID, so we were together all the time, and it just was not good. I think during the summer, my daughter and I went to the pool in my neighborhood. He watched me from the window and he came down and he asked me, why did you talk to those guys when you came into the pool? Mind you, they're like the lifeguards of the pool, and this was COVID, so they had to take your temperature when you came in. And I was like, they took my temperature. It's COVID. And he was like so angry about it. So any male that I came in contact with, he thought I was cheating on him with. And then there was just so many other things during that process. I'm gonna wrap up my story in a second. But what it ultimately ended up leading to was I asked him to leave. This was September of 2021, I want to say. September of 2021, I told him he had to leave. Literally that weekend, he ended up getting shot in the face. He also got shot again not too long ago. This is now May. It might have been at the top of the year, either January or the fall of 2024. There's so many different things that have happened. And so that's when I knew I made the right decision, because those two instances were not the first two instances where gun violence was involved. There was an instance where he like fired a gun at his mom's house and it went off, and went through the house into the neighbor's house. Like, so many different things happened where I wasn't there and I wasn't involved, but it was violent. And I knew that God kept me and protected me from these things, okay? So how did this make me feel? Scared, nervous, uncomfortable, all of the things. I ended up leaving that place. I moved here, but in a moment of just, I think it was my daughter's birthday, I let him know where I lived. He came here to drop off her gift, and from that moment on, he would just show up here, like knocking on my windows and sleeping on my car outside. And so I ended up getting a restraining order because it was considered stalking. But it just made me so uncomfortable, because I just know where his anger could lead, right? And that is the scariest part, I think, of the disease is knowing how far it can go. And so I started joining a lot of groups when I first started to notice that this isn't what I thought it was, and just to get insight on what they thought and what other people were experiencing. And girl, it was crazy. What I was experiencing was really just tip of the iceberg. And so I knew at that moment I had to make changes for my daughter. Like, I did not want her to be exposed to someone who was going to be violent and crazy and stalkerish and angry and aggressive. And I think the very last moment for me was I did let him pick her up from school one day when she was in pre-K. And he brought her back and he said, "She said you had a bald man at your house sleeping on your couch." And at this point, girl, I just started dating. And I'm like, "A bald man on my couch?" He's like, "Yeah." And she said you called him ballet butt. And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "And she also said that you told her that she shouldn't tell me about it." And I'm like, because for sure, if I get a man, I'm telling everybody. But also, it really made me feel like this isn't right. And then in that moment, I also forgot about the illness and got angry. And then it was also like, this is not okay. Because then if he goes to court and like starts to say things like this or whatever, and like it calls into question my integrity, I'm not rocking for it. That was the first and last time I ever let him pick her up from school. And from that moment on, I decided that I was going to pursue custody, because I'm like, if you're like feeding her these lies and then making up lies about her, about me, I'm not okay with it. And so in addition to like the gun violence and this and that and all there's so many other things that I could say, but that was like the moment of I can't co-parent with you. Once I decided to file for custody, part of what the lawyers were saying was, you don't want to ever seem like you're withholding your child. You want to always seem like you are doing the best that you can to co-parent with the person. So I did do meetups sometimes, but he would always make it about me in the relationship. So he would like grab my face and try to kiss me, or like say something sexual, or do like, it was so bad. Okay, it was so uncomfortable for me, but I had to do what I had to do for the case. And they ended up doing like an evaluation where like they came to my house, they met me in the courthouse and interviewed me a few times. They wanted me to list like all of the things that I knew about him according to like dates. So like in the midst of all of this, you guys, he is like in and out of the hospital for like psych issues. He's in and out of rehab for other issues, in and out of jail for other issues. So it's like I have all of this evidence saved. And I never wanted to share it with anybody because I never wanted to do him any harm. But when it came to my daughter, I did not care anymore. I would rather hurt him than hurt her. I would rather harm him than hurt her. I will do anything to make sure that my daughter is fine. I already know, for one, she has a father wound, which is always going to be an issue. But on the other side, do I want her to be in the car with him and someone tries to shoot him? Do I want her to be in the car with him and he tries to shoot himself? Because in my mind, I've always thought that there's always a chance that he tried to do these things to himself. And also, he's never 100% honest about any of these things. So if you ask him about it, he answers around it. He never says exactly what happened. And that also makes me uncomfortable. I have a daughter, she's 6. And how do I talk with her about this? It's really hard, because there are times where she's just like, I don't have a dad. Because ultimately in the court case, I was awarded full legal and physical custody of her. As far as visitation is concerned, it's up to my discretion. And they recommended that it be supervised. So I did try to do that. It didn't work out, and he didn't want to pay for it at first, and then he did. And then by then the lady didn't want to do it anymore. And I was like, all right, forget it. That was hard enough. So she does feel like she doesn't have a dad. And there are moments where she's like, oh, I wish I had a dad. I want a dad. Oh, where's my dad? And I have to explain to her that you do have one. He's just not well. And like, I'll do like random searches on like K-Search or Google, and horrible things always have come up, and it hasn't gotten better for him. My prayer is always for him to get better so that he can be a part of her life. But even when I spoke with him after the most recent gun violence issue, he asked me questions about myself and how I felt about him and did I miss him. And I'm like, at this point, sir, it's been like 3 years since we broke up. The issue is not, the question that you ask should not be, do I miss you? The question that you ask should be, does your daughter miss you? And so I'm praying and hoping that he gets better. I do know what the odds are with schizophrenics. And it's typically that they don't even live that long, and they typically get worse as they age. So I've just told her that we're praying for him to get better. Honestly, I'm praying for a man to come into my life that's willing to be a full-time dad for her. And I think that's part of the problem too when I'm dating. I'm always evaluating, like, how great would this person be with my kid? Not great, move on. This person doesn't have kids. I don't know if I can do it. Like, there's just so much weight that comes with dealing with someone who you know can't even really be a part of your life because you're scared, you're afraid, and you're uncomfortable. And there's only so much that you can do on your end. Like, I can't heal him. I can only be the best mom I can be and then try to show up as a father too. It's so hard. A lot of people ask, how do I cope with it? What has my healing journey been like? Because I don't look like what I've gone through. There were a lot of nights of crying. There was a lot of nights of praying. There was a lot of nights of not sleeping. I had migraines. I had anxiety. I had to go to therapy. I used to smoke a lot of weed and drink a lot of wine. And honestly, what got me through this was like my faith. I immediately joined a church. Even before I moved to my new place, I joined a church. I got baptized. I got into my word. There was a sense of peace that could not come from anything on this earth that kept me, and it motivated me, and it and I said and I said I wasn't gonna cry in this video. It's a sense of peace that I found. And that really has guided me this whole time. I hate people that cry on the internet. God, I hate people that cry on the internet. My faith is really what gave me peace. There was nothing. I think I prayed for peace for literally like every day for 2.5 years. I prayed for peace because my peace, it was shattered. It's like you're sleeping and somebody's at your door at 4 o'clock in the morning, off and on for 4 years. It was so painful because I was just so nervous and on edge. I was like, is he gonna find out where I work? It was so uncomfortable, but my faith gave me peace, and that peace guided me to have like confidence, because once you have peace, it kind of is like, all right, I'm settled here, now let's move. And I think from that moment on of having that peace, I was like, all right, let's get this money. I can't sit here and cry all the time. I can't sit here and be angry all the time at my decision of like ignoring what he said, ignoring his little moments of like anger, or ignoring the moments where like he wasn't around me because maybe he was in the hospital. I don't know. I will never know what happened before me. Sorry, my dog is barking. But really, it was just prayer, therapy, sobriety, and making goals. And I think focusing on like my hobbies and my content and like making sure my daughter had the best life ever. There is no one size fits all healing process, but it does get better. And that's what I want this video to be. I want you to know that if you are a mom or a dad whose co-parent is going through some sort of mental health issue that makes you uncomfortable and makes you scared and makes you feel like your child is not safe, you are not alone. It does get better. Doesn't mean that that person will get better, but it does get better for you, and it does get better for your kid. And you have to just lock in and know that you are enough, and it's gonna be okay. Okay, so if you are one of the people that I just mentioned, drop it in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know about your experience. Let me know what you're telling your kids. How are you navigating like the happy moments, like Christmas and birthdays and recitals and competitions, when you know that other person isn't going to be there? What do you say? I usually don't say anything at all because I don't want to bring it up unless she brings it up. So there, and then I also do still have like pictures of him in her room. I have pictures of him in my phone from like happier times and with her, and like family photos with her, because I don't want her to ever feel like he abandoned her. He did not abandon her. I want to be very clear about that. My choice to raise her by myself was my choice. But I also feel like there were things on the back end that he could have done to help himself, which is take his meds, go to his therapy, go to his psychiatrist, and all of the things, stay sober, and all of those important things that are imperative for your mental health. That would have made it easier for him to be here. He might not be as far gone as he is into the disease. However, he does want to be there for her. He's just not fit right now. If ever he is, he can be there. But yeah, so I hope this video was a blessing for some of you. And I will be back for another girl chat, and the next video might be a vlog. I don't know. I just did 2 videos back to back. One was way happier than this, I promise. But I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.